And you're welcome back to the polls. Now let's talk about technical and vocational education here in Ghana. Delivering his State of the Nation address Wednesday, President Akufo-Addo actually indicated and reiterated his commitment to upgrading technical and vocational schools across the country. According to the President, 34 existing vocational and technical institutes have been refurbished to equip students with the requisite skills they need to thrive in a modern economy.
The difficulties of the time notwithstanding, we intend to continue to grow this economy and bring prosperity. That will only happen when we continue to invest in the future. Our children will continue to be educated and be equipped to run a modern and digitalized economy. The free SHS and free TVET are the best vehicles we will devise to take us to the realization of our goal of an educated and skilled workforce. The computerized school placement system is currently ongoing, and the latest batch of JHS students will soon embark on their free SHS and free TVET education. The TVET institutions are being upgraded and equipped to enable them train the increased numbers of children that we want to be attracted to that sector to meet the modern needs of our economy. This year, I'll be commissioning some of the 34 refurbished National Vocational and Technical Institutes, NVTIs, across the country. The refurbishment comprises the construction, rehabilitation and equipment of laboratories, workshops, additional classrooms, hostels, and administrative offices. Within the next few months, the construction of 5 technical colleges will begin in various parts of the country. 3 technical institutes will be upgraded to tertiary status. The initial phase for the construction of 9 TVET campuses will commence next month in Bosumtwe, Achimewisa, Boakon, Kenyase, Patuda, Dambai, Narabanga, Guabuliga, and Tolibri. These campuses will have academic facilities, workshops, laboratories, hostels, and staff accommodation, and provide access for training. Government is in the process of securing financing for the construction of 5 STEM universities in 5 new regions. That is Western North, Savannah, Northeast, Ahafo, and Uti regions.
Also, that's the President there. Today on the Pulse, we're putting a spotlight on STEM education. Fortunate to have now joining us via Zoom, Deputy Minister responsible for education in charge of technical and vocational education training, TVET, Gifty Chum Ampofo. In the studio as well, we have Dr. Bafo Ejebewa, Ghana's former ambassador to the United States. He happens to be a lecturer now at the Worcester Polytechnic Institute in the United States of America. We'll be having a conversation with him shortly, but Honorable, let me welcome you to the program. So there we have it, the President indicating his resolve to uplift the face of TVET across the country. What specifically are we to expect in the coming days in that regard?
Thank you very much. My greetings to all our listeners and those watching us. President hits the hammer right at the head of the nail. All the whole world, countries who are doing very well so far as production is concerned are countries who are making TVET their priority. And talking about TVET, you can't talk about TVET without mentioning Germany, because Germany has provided a very wonderful model that many countries had imitated and we are still imitating. President in 2018 made a statement that to reduce poverty and to avoid or reduce youth unemployment, we need to place much emphasis on TVET. And because of that, President set up a transformation agenda for TVET that was chaired by Honorable Nana Osafo, who was the senior minister. And then, with that transformation agenda, we have three main things to do to make TVET accessible, to improve facilities at TVET centers, and also to get regulation to ensure that TVET is streamlined and TVET is standardized. So with this, we started looking for funding to expand our TVET facilities. And the first that we were successful was a facility of 139 million euros to expand, to facelift our 34 MBTIs, which the president spoke about. And for sake of time, President over-summarized the achievement that we have made under his own regime in TVET. Apart from 34 MVTIs, we also have 3 foundry and machinery centers, one at CSIR in Accra, at East Legon. We have one at Atomic Energy, and we have the third one at KNUST. All these together were the 34 MVTIs, and then the head office of the OICs have also been renovated, expanded, and facelifted. These facilities also have modern state-of-the-art TVET equipment, which are not just for teaching, but they're also for industrial use because they are industrial machines. In addition, we also have a bill that, by the grace of God, in 2020, we had, 2 bills that 2020, we have them into Act. That is Pre-Tertiary Act, that is Act 1049, and Education Regulators Act, that is Act 1023. The Education Regulation Act seems to address the anomalies in the TVET sectors. The TVET sectors, as of 2019, had many institutions under different ministries, as many as 19 in this country. And what was quite surprising was these institutes, even though government money is used to run these institutes, some of them did not have accreditation, and some of them, after they've gone through the training, full training program, the government institutions were even struggling to place them in areas of job and as well as salaries. So we realized that there were no standardization. And again, because all those 19 ministries, their core business wasn't teaching and learning, because of the budgetary allocations were also something that had to be discussed. And with that, with the Pre-Tertiary Act, that is Act 1049, we now have all skill development institutions under all various ministries, now under the Ministry of Education, to ensure that there is standardization. Programs done wherever they are done. You all know that once you have the certificate, you had a training, at least you have an acceptable certificate and you have accreditation as well. And whoever sees that knows that because of the standardization you have in the country, it doesn't matter where the certificate is coming from. We know that once it's proficiency 1, wherever it's coming from is proficiency 1. 1 is 2, 1 is certificate. Whatever certificate you have, everybody knows that irrespective of where that certificate is being awarded, we know what it entails. In addition to those, we also have the Education Regulators Bill, where we had collapsed CODVET, which was Council for TVET, and also we had NAPTEX. We have collapsed the two into one body we call Council for TVET. So now we no more have CODVET, but we have CTVET. CTVET to ensure that all TVET activities in the country, teaching and learning, together with those who are private persons practicing TVET, are very much regulated, standardized, and also developed curricula for all TVET institutions in collaboration with the industry. And to ensure that this is well done and appropriately done, we've also set up sector skill bodies. And these sector skills bodies are in close association with CTVET to ensure that they collectively develop the curricula that will be useful today and will be useful tomorrow, and then the future also be useful in here in the country and also useful elsewhere. Again, the TVET has also performed what you call skilled gap analysis. My brother, you agree with me that in Ghana, if anyone puts up a very magnificent building, when you get to the finishing, the tile laying, the POPs and others, you know where we go in West Africa to look for men. Not to mention the issues, the challenges we're having with the local content at our oil field. So all these together, the TVET is developing modern curricula to suit our country today and the future, and also to suit other countries to make our graduates very viable.
Honorable Gift Chuma Pofo, just hold on for us. We're fortunate to also have in studio with us Dr. Bafo Ejebewa, Ghana's former ambassador to the United States, also now doing a lot of academic activities as well. So he's with the Worcester Polytechnic Institute, USA. Thank you so much, Ambassador, and such a great time to be seeing you.
It's a pleasure to
I'm
be
just
here.
interested in finding out how life has been after your tour of duty, actually, in the US.
Well, I suppose it's been different,
Right.
but at the same time sort of normal. Yeah, because the institution offered me this position of distinguished statesman in residence.
Right.
And I'm using that opportunity to support the university in develop new initiatives that would benefit, in this particular case, my country first, and we intend to extend to the other West Africa.
So it's still an issue of national service. That's how we should put it.
You know,
Right.
You have to always keep a certain strain of nationalism in your system.
Right. So why now focus on issues of vocational and technical training? How relevant is it to a developing nation such as Ghana?
Well, the fact of the matter is, developing nations are not in any kind of isolation. We are competing in the same world, on the same markets, in the same learning environment. So we have to keep up. And you see, where education and training do have a lot to do with our developmental effort, we cannot calmly decide that all that we can do is to wait for others to do something and then we pick it up. We have to be able to compete. And if in our situation and across sub-Saharan Africa, we can't even afford to play catch up. We actually have to leapfrog because the world keeps hopping by the day. So it is very crucial that we always keep an eye on what is it that we can do to improve our system.
Where did we miss the mark? I mean, the belief was that at the time of independence, we saw a great direction in terms of TVET, vocation and technical training. Where did we miss the point, and how do we need to get back on track?
I suppose it will be quite presumptuous on my part to actually nail down what went wrong.
Right.
But the thing is, if you recognize the fact that somebody like me went to Legon to do a degree in when was it? 1962.
Right.
And the curriculum spread was such that you couldn't at that time even count on the new technological areas and such.
Right.
And then Legon also, by its very nature and its very setup and its orientation, I believe was originally set up basically to provide civil servants for the colonial administration. So the areas that call for technical expertise and such were not exactly highlighted. Maybe the highlighting was supposed to be at Science and Technology in Kumasi. Yeah. But we obviously have carried on what is it that was bequeathed to us. And I, in my view, believe that we just have not kept pace with the development of business and industry And therefore, we have not been able to produce the kinds of graduates and such who ought to handle the business of the nation as the years rolled on.
So that's where the problem might have started from.
Yeah.
But now, looking at the reforms that we have and government's policy of putting things together, creating, for instance, the Council for Technical and Vocational Training, are these policy measures enough in addressing the challenges that we have, or perhaps there are more factors that we need to consider?
Well, I believe TVET has been with us for quite a bit, and I believe they have been doing a very good job. But see, the whole thing runs around our concept of education and qualification. We seem to have believed all the time that holding a piece of paper that testifies to the fact that you've been to this institution, this is the curriculum you followed, and all that, and this is the final grade that you have, in itself, that's the job. But in my view, the certificate basically says you came to this school, you attended classes, you took exams, you got such a grade. And of course, congratulations. You are at a point where you ought to be able to do something. What the certificate doesn't say is that, one, with all that participation that you did, it only assures us that with all that time spent in school, the chances are that you can read. The chances are that you can write. The chances are that with a bit of hope, you can think.
Right.
But it doesn't guarantee that there is a certain factor of application.
Or perhaps skills.
That, yeah. Because we have a lot of graduates with no employable skills. And the thing is, I, for one, I'm committed to developing the workforce of the future, for this country. Yeah. And I don't think without the application, we are going to solve, the problem. But I don't believe that you have to go to a university or what have you to become a brickie, or to become a good carpenter, or to become a good plasterer. But at least there ought to be the avenues for people to go and acquire those skills. So I'm quite sure that there are some people who could be broad-minded enough to decide that he has a degree in history or a degree in economics or what have you. But what he actually wants to do is to be somebody who is good at laying marbles or what have you. Because it will always show. My mom once told me that if you went into a chop bar and there were all these people eating there, you look at the way they eat, and something tells you that that one went to school, that one didn't.
Interesting point there.
Yeah.
And that's got to do also with training. But one concern about training is that we need the appropriate materials and inputs to meet what the technological changes across the world is. So when it comes to STEM training, even in Ghana, there's a concern about the facilities that we have in place. I'll come to you, Ambassador, on that, but let me also take your thoughts on that, Honorable Gifty Chuma-Mpofu. What measures are we going to see from the Ministry of Education? We are already learning of the STEM institutes that you are about to construct, but what more do we know about that in terms of the provisions you're making for infrastructure and then technology, which is the second leg of that conversation?
Thank you very much. Echi, you're welcome.
Thank you, madam.
It's good to meet people like you on programs like this. And as we speak out, we also learn a lot from you, and then we see where the loopholes are, and then you mend our ways. Thank you very much. So the issue for improvement of facilities at our TVET centers and our STEM centers, so much has been done. It's not only the 34 TVET centers or the MVP that has been improved and upgraded. You also have 10 technical universities, their workshops modernized and upgraded, furnished with state-of-the-art TVET equipment, which are also industrial equipment. When we come to the second cycle, that is the technical schools which were previously under the Ghana Education Service. Let me say this. Now we have, per the Education Regulators Act and the Pre-Tertiary Act, Act 1049, we now have TVET Service, Ghana TVET Service, headed by its own Director General, that is Mausi, and Deputy Director General, Mr. David Pratt. So they are taking charge of all the technical vocational second cycle institutes in the country. So the 49, which hitherto were under the Ghana Education Service, we have 13 of them also having brand new workshops with modern and industrial equipment, state-of-the-art TVET equipment. And then there are other 4 that under Government of Austria, we have also refurbished them and furnished them with state-of-the-art TVET equipment. All that we're trying to do is, we want to place TVET in Ghana at the pedestal of the world. And we've also registered as being the 81st member of World Skills International. So whatever we do in TVET, we're not benchmarking with Ghana or even Africa. We're benchmarking with the world. So all equipment that we bring into these TVET institutions, being the second cycle or the tertiary, we're benchmarking with the world. You all appreciate that TVET is very expensive. That is why for some decades, we were not investing much in TVET. Also because most of our industries almost collapsed. So our TVET graduates were not getting the industries for the internship, and also we're not getting the industries to work in them after they have graduated from the various institutes. As of now, the CTVET, that is the Commission for TVET, have a close link with the industry by establishing what we call the sector scale bodies. These sector scale bodies, we are working very closely together to enable them open their factories and their workshops to our students for internship, that is for more hands-on. And again, government is also providing for practicals, even though it is not enough. But by approved technology, we are meeting the needs of practical or hands-on for our students. All the equipment that we have, together with the computers that we have furnished our schools with, these systems have simulations, 3D simulations, where all practicals could be done on the internet or on the computer, being projected on the screen, and the 3D dimension projection or video is such that it looks as if your teacher is there teaching you what to do, and you are right in there in the picture. With this appropriate technology we call the simulations, it enables students to improve on their practicals without using too much consumables. That is, we're using this to cut down the expenditure so far as practical learning is concerned. Again, H mentioned the fact that somebody could learn any skill or could go to school and decide to go back to learn a particular skill. That is where we get into. So now we're doing CBT curriculum, where you can decide that I want to learn only how to lay bricks or only how to lay tile. And that wouldn't take you 3 years or 4 years. Some courses will be 6 years, some will be 3 years, some will be 1 year. It could be proficiency 1, it could be proficiency 2, it could be certificate 1, depending on your background. And this curricula also, we take into consideration prior learning. Assuming you want to go and learn baking, and your mother used to bake bread. At least in that aspect, there's so much you know. So we develop the curricula.
Right. So what you're trying to do.
You know already, yes.
Right. So what you're trying to do is to make that hands-on, so that there's practicality, right?
Exactly.
Right. But for you, Doc, I mean, you've been in the first world, and I'm using that word advisedly. There's this concern about the digital divide, where you are and what you see now in Ghana. Are we able to catch up to that stage where the developed world is able to train many of its students in advanced technology? How do we learn from some of these examples elsewhere and try and incorporate that into our system that we have here?
Well, there's always going to be the question of funding.
Right.
And in our circumstances, it isn't everything that we can handle at the same time. But then I also subscribe to the view that governments are not expected to solve all problems. But governments, good governments, are expected to subsidize the solution of problems. So in all this, we might not be able to, start with some kind of excessively superior workshop situation or what have you.
Okay.
But at least a certain kind of paced development is always going to be very helpful. And in fact, I can tell you too, one image that I observed when the Russians left Afghanistan before the Americans went in.
Right.
There was this old gentleman with two children, boys, sitting by the roadside, making TV antennas from kerosene tins.
Wow.
Now that, for me, is what advancement is about. And then I have also seen images of 3 youngsters in this country. One of them had been generating electricity from cassava.
Whoa.
The other one had managed to use electricity basically as a locking system for cupboards and things like that. And then recently, I think I saw one of them who had manufactured some kind of a mobile gadget that could be, developed, what have you. In my view, those, for instance, are kids that you go and grab, talk to them, look at their backgrounds and all that, and somehow find some space for them and support them. Then I'm quite sure their support system is not going to be anything that will knock off a building.
Right.
And tell them, okay, maybe for this period, we will give you so much so that you don't starve. Do what you want to do. You challenge people.
Do you feel that will promote creativity?
Exactly,
right.
because what is necessary is for us to be able to devise things which are relevant to our system. Because some of the things that we have been made accustomed to, and we feel we cannot do without, most probably we don't even need them at all.
Right.
But we have to find a way of making sure that our circumstances are recognized in whatever it is that we do. At the moment that, for instance, car makers are going for electric cars and that kind of thing, you look at our electricity situation, and this is across the sub-Saharan region, and you find out that the development of these cars are such that it takes into consideration the supply of electricity at some point. It takes into consideration the quality of the roads and all that. And I suspect that the cars we use now, the internal combustion engine is going to be retired at some point. If they do, and we are all into this electronic vehicles and such, I can imagine driving my own car to my hometown, and at some point the dashboard telling me that, well, I wasn't designed for this kind of road, so I'm not going any further.
But how do we connect all of this to job creation? Because the youth are very much concerned about that. And anytime the option of TVET comes up, the concern is that there's some potential of creating more job avenues for our youth. Is that practical, or perhaps is it far-fetched to be?
Well, it could be practical because, in fact, my thrust in all this is that I'm trying to get the Ghanaian employer community to support the development of applied STEM. Because in the final analysis, they are the ones who will provide the jobs. They are the ones who would want to improve on their performance because they have staff with the quality and the attitude to help produce more and better. So I'm more into a certain kind of relationship with business and industry to be able to absorb the kinds of people that we need as the workforce for Ghana's future. And if I did this launch a day ago at Kempinski, and I got a lot of these industrialists in there to try and get them to appreciate the fact that they also owe the country and themselves in particular to develop the kinds of expertise that will be relevant to their kind of production.
But we unfortunately would have to hold on with this conversation. I'm sure that we'll create some time for it and have this conversation again. But Honorable Gifty Chumampofo, just briefly, about 30 seconds, your words on the expectation that we should be on the lookout for from the ministry. Briefly, Madam. It appears that we've lost Honorable, but Your Excellency, your final words to our viewers as we wrap up this conversation.
Well, for me, because of what I'm trying to promote, I would want Ghanaian business and industry to take this whole idea of STEM and applied STEM, seriously, because we are looking at the future of the country, raising the temperature of the economy, and making sure that at least the people that we have, because we have a teeny set of young people with a voracious appetite for virtually anything and with the energy to try anything, and we ought to provide the opportunities for them so to do.
Right, Ambassador, I'm grateful that you've been able to join us. We'll definitely have this conversation again.